All right, let's jump right in. We're about to crack a medical mystery that, affects millions and millions of people. It's this fascinating story about painkillers that were never even meant to be painkillers, and yet somehow they've become these essential tools in modern medicine.
So just imagine this for a second. You go to your doctor with a very real, very physical pain. Maybe it's a burning sensation down your legs or just a constant nagging ache in your back. You're expecting, a standard painkiller. But instead, you walk out of there with a prescription for a drug that's normally used for seizures or depression. It feels completely wrong, doesn't it? Like there must be a mistake. But here's the thing, it's not. And today, we're going to unpack exactly why this super strange approach actually makes perfect sense.
And this is not some, rare niche problem we're talking about. Chronic pain is a massive, massive issue across the globe. Some studies have shown that in certain places, up to 55.2% of the population deals with it. That is more than 1 out of every 2 people. So you can see why finding effective treatments that aren't opioids is one of the biggest challenges medicine is facing right now.
Okay, so to solve this whole mystery, the very first thing we have to get our heads around is a super important point. Not all pain is the same. The reason your doctor might give you an antidepressant for your back pain, well, it all starts with figuring out the type of pain you have.
So this slide really gets to the heart of it. On one side, you have the kind of pain we all know, pain from tissue damage. Think about a sprained ankle or arthritis. Your body is sending out accurate signals saying, hey, something's hurt here. That's the stuff that opioids and anti-inflammatories are designed to fix. But on the other side, you've got this completely different beast, neuropathic pain. With this, there might not be any actual injury happening anymore. The problem is the nervous system itself has gone haywire. And that is the kind of pain that needs a totally different toolkit.
Yeah, this is the perfect way to think about it. With neuropathic pain, the nerves themselves are the source of the problem. It's just like having a faulty fire alarm in your house that keeps screaming even though there's no fire. The wiring is just crossed, so you're feeling very real pain, but it's being generated by a nervous system that's sending out false signals. And you can't fix faulty wiring with a bucket of water, right? You need a different kind of tool.
And that brings us to the first big clue in our medical detective story, anticonvulsants. These are drugs made to treat seizures. So what on earth could they possibly have to do with pain?
Well, it turns out that seizures and neuropathic pain have something pretty big in common. They're both caused by overactive, misfiring nerves. A seizure is like this huge explosion of electrical activity in the brain. Neuropathic pain is like a constant, annoying stream of false pain signals. So anticonvulsants work by just calming everything down. They basically act like a spam filter for your nerves, blocking all those junk messages before they can get through. And this is such a great way to see how it works. Take a look at this nerve cell. See that little gate? That's a sodium channel. A pain signal is basically an electrical impulse, and it has to pass through gates just like this one to travel along the nerve. What drugs like carbamazepine do is they literally get in the way. They jam the gate shut, acting like a bouncer. The signal can't get through. It's stopped cold.
So that's one piece of the puzzle. Now let's get to our second clue, and this is the one that really throws people for a loop. Antidepressants. Why would a drug for a mood disorder do anything for physical pain?
Okay, if you remember one thing, let it be this. When an antidepressant is used for pain, its effect on pain is totally separate from its effect on mood. The real magic here is that it taps into your body's own built-in system for controlling pain. It's like turning up the volume on your internal painkillers.
Let's just walk through this real quick. Your body naturally uses chemicals like serotonin to turn down the volume on pain signals. It's a neat system. But normally, as you can see, those helpful chemicals get recycled really fast in a process called reuptake. What antidepressants do is they block that recycling process. They clog up the reuptake pump. And by doing that, they leave more of your body's own pain-fighting chemicals hanging around to do their job. It's pretty clever.
So the theories sound good, right? Calming nerves, boosting natural painkillers, it all makes sense. But does it actually work in the real world? Let's check out the data, because in medicine, that's really the only thing that matters.
So to figure this out, scientists use a really cool metric called numbers needed to treat, or NNT. It sounds kind of technical, but the idea is actually super simple. It answers one question. How many people do you have to give this drug to before just one of them gets a real, meaningful benefit? That's it. So a lower number is always better. An NNT of 1, that's a perfect drug. An NNT of 20, not so great.
So let's look at the evidence for antidepressants. The older ones, the tricyclic antidepressants, or TCAs, look at that. They have an NNT of around 3.
That is really, really effective. Now compare that to the newer SSRIs, which have an NNT of 7. I mean, they still work, but the data is crystal clear. For this kind of pain, the older TCAs are way more powerful.
And what about those anticonvulsants? Well, the evidence for them is just as solid. You've got drugs like pregabalin and gabapentin with NNTs around 4 and 5 for nerve pain. I mean, those are great numbers. It proves that the whole idea of calming down overactive nerves actually translates into real-world relief for people.
All right, so we've got the theory and we've got the data to back it up. Let's pull it all together and see how this has completely reshaped how doctors treat this kind of chronic pain. This is the big reveal, the resolution to our mystery.
So here's the bottom line. These drugs aren't some weird alternative treatment. They are the standard of care. All the major international pain societies, based on decades of solid evidence, now recommend these antidepressants and anticonvulsants as the first thing doctors should try for most kinds of neuropathic pain. And what's really interesting is how they're prescribed for pain. Look at these starting doses. They're way lower than the doses you'd use for depression or seizures, because we're targeting a different problem. The golden rule for both types of drugs is start low and go slow. A doctor starts you on a tiny dose and then gradually, slowly bumps it up over weeks. This helps minimize side effects and lets them find the perfect dose that works for your specific pain.
And that pretty much wraps it up. The mystery of the painkiller that isn't really a painkiller is solved. It's a fantastic story about really understanding the deep biology of pain and then using the right tool for the right job. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other amazing solutions are already just sitting there on the pharmacy shelf waiting for us to ask a new question?